As of July 2025, the war in Ukraine continues to be a grinding conflict, now in its fourth year, with no clear end in sight despite various international efforts for a peace settlement. Here's a breakdown of the key aspects. Intense fighting, gradual Russian gains. The conflict is primarily concentrated along a roughly 1,000-kilometer front line, mainly in eastern and southern Ukraine. Russian forces are making slow but steady advances, particularly in the Donetsk region, aiming to fully capture the oblast and potentially push into Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. Key towns like Pokrovsk and Kostiantynivka, which are crucial for Ukrainian supply routes, are under significant pressure. When it comes to aerial assaults and drone warfare, both sides are heavily reliant on drones. Russia has escalated its aerial bombing campaigns, launching massive drone and missile attacks across Ukraine, targeting civilian areas, energy infrastructure, and military targets. Ukraine, in response, is significantly increasing its domestic production of drones, focusing on interceptor and long-range strike capabilities, and is also conducting drone attacks deep inside Russian territory, including in regions like Kursk, Rostov, and Saratov. Defense holding firm mostly. While under severe strain, Ukrainian defenses are largely holding firm. However, the recent pauses in United States military aid have put additional pressure on Ukraine's ability to defend against Russian advances and aerial assaults. Ukrainian operations in Russia continue, including drone attacks and alleged incursions in border regions like Kursk and Sumy. There have also been reports of high-profile assassinations or deaths of Russian officials within Russia. Western military aid, still remains absolutely crucial for Ukraine. But lately, there's been a pretty significant shift in the way aid is flowing. European countries, especially the Nordic nations and EU institutions, have really stepped up, increasing both their military and financial support to Ukraine. Meanwhile, the United States has paused some critical weapons shipments, citing what's called a capability review and concerns about preserving its own military readiness. This pause from the US is a major worry for Kyiv, since America is really the only country able to provide certain key weapon systems, especially air defenses, at scale and with speed. Ukraine's foreign ministry has made it clear that any delay in support only encourages the aggressor. Some folks see this suspension as possibly speeding up Russian gains and reinforcing Russia's belief that it can outlast Western support. And on the diplomatic side, US-led international efforts to broker a peace settlement have stalled. Direct peace talks just aren't delivering any progress. Russia is still seen as dragging its feet on negotiations, with its war goals pretty much unchanged. The war continues to be, an existential challenge for Europe. Denmark, which currently holds the EU presidency, is really focused on getting European defense sorted, aiming for 5% of GDP to go towards military and defense investment within NATO. There's also a strong push to help Ukraine and Moldova join the EU, though Hungary, as usual, is blocking Ukraine's path. Over in the US, the current administration under President Trump has brought in a fair bit of uncertainty about whether future military aid to Ukraine will continue at the same level, with a lot of focus now on internal US defense needs. Ukraine's economy, surprisingly, has shown a fair bit of resilience, with GDP growth projected at around 2% in 2025. This is thanks to international assistance, defense spending, and strong domestic demand. Still, the recovery is slowing down, mainly because of ongoing labor shortages and continued Russian attacks on energy infrastructure. Inflation is staying high, mostly due to rising food and energy prices. On the Russian side, their economy is also slowing sharply after a period of overheating in 2024, though inflation there remains high as well. Growth is expected to be about 1.5% in 2025. The war, of course, has sparked a massive humanitarian crisis. Millions of Ukrainians have been displaced within the country, and over 8.2 million have fled abroad, making this Europe's largest refugee crisis since World War II. As of April 2025, about 3.8 million Ukrainians are still internally displaced. Ukraine's infrastructure has really taken a beating, especially its energy grid. A significant chunk of its electricity generating capacity has been either destroyed or occupied by Russian forces, so the country's now heavily dependent on its remaining Soviet-era nuclear power plants. At the same time, Ukrainian strikes on Russian energy facilities have caused some serious damage too. So, in a nutshell, July 2025 is seeing more of this brutal war of attrition. Ukraine is working hard to strengthen its domestic defense industry and is getting substantial, though sometimes inconsistent, backing from its European partners. But the recent pauses in US aid have definitely added another layer of challenge. Russia, meanwhile, keeps up the pressure at the front, and with aerial attacks, seemingly convinced that time is on its side. Peace talks are still going nowhere, and unfortunately, the human and economic costs of the conflict just keep piling up.